Good morning, guys, and welcome to another edition of Lexington Water Cooler News. My name's Rock Daniels. Today is Friday, TGIF, March the 3rd, 2023. So in weather today here in Lexington, Kentucky, it is going to be absolutely crazy. All right, winds 35 to 40 miles an hour throughout the day. 100% chance of rain, as you can see outside. Possibility of hail, tornadoes. So you got to be on the lookout today. The high is going to be 68 degrees, but the low is going to be way down there at 37. Sun's going to rise at 7:07 this morning and set at 6:33 p.m. So be careful throughout this day. All right, it's going to be crazy out there, guys. Fayette County Coroner's Office has identified the body found on Cambridge Drive in a dumpster in 2022 as Jimmy Lawrence Medlock. The identification was made through DNA and out-of-state arrest records. Medlock died from stab wounds and lacerations to his thorax. Multiple departments from different states worked together on the investigation, and charges have been filed in relation to the death. In other news, a Lexington middle school was evacuated after a fire yesterday, but everybody is safe. Now, several school districts in Kentucky and southern Indiana have canceled in-person classes today due to the severe weather that we just mentioned earlier in our region. Now, the forecast is including those storms, those high-speed winds, and the possibility of isolated tornadoes. Now, some school districts in southern Indiana have opted for remote learning, while Fayette County Public Schools in Kentucky have announced full cancellation. That means my kids will be playing Minecraft all day, probably. Now, flash flooding is also possible, with the National Weather Service predicting rainfall between 2 and 4 inches and winds expected to peak in mid-morning or early afternoon. Now, the state is also at risk for isolated tornadoes, so be careful, people, please. Now, on Thursday, the Kentucky House passed House Bill 470 with a 75 to 22 vote, which blocks gender transition medical services for minors in Kentucky. Now, opponents call it the worst anti-transgender legislation in the country and rallied against it at the State House. Now, protesters argued that gender-affirming care saves lives, while supporters believe it is unproven and dangerous. The bill will now move to the Kentucky Senate for debate. A 2022 UCLA study found that there are about 2,000 trans youth under 18 in Kentucky and 17,000 adults in Kentucky that are transgender. Now, Republican lawmakers in Kentucky have advanced a bill that would prohibit drag shows on public property or in places where children could see them, resulting in chants of shame from opponents who criticize the measure as discriminatory and an infringement on First Amendment rights. Businesses hosting drag performances could have their alcohol and business licenses suspended or revoked, and violations would be considered misdemeanors or felonies in some cases. Despite changes made to the bill, which was scaled back from its original version, opponents continue to raise concerns about its unconstitutionality. All right, the Kentucky Wildcats women's team, seeded 14th, defeated the number 6 seed Alabama 71-58 on Thursday night in the second round of the Southeastern Conference tournament, taking them 2/5 of the way towards winning the championship for the second consecutive season. The Wildcats will face the Tennessee Volunteers, who are seeded 3rd on Friday. The Wildcats were behind by as many as 10 points in the third quarter, but thanks to a performance by Jada Walker, who finished with 24 points, 6 steals, the Wildcats came back to win the game. Kentucky's defensive intensity held Alabama to 9 of 25 from long range. Now, Kentucky Secretary of State Mike Adams faces a tough primary challenge from Stephen Kniper, a conservative with a background in election technology. Now, Adams has angered many conservatives by fighting against election recounts and accusing those who question the process of promoting conspiracy theories. All right, so Kniper believes in holding the government accountable and questioning the election process, while Adams is seen as a political elitist. Although Adams has support from left-leaning Democrats for his COVID-19 response and changes to voting, Kniper is gaining traction among conservative groups ahead of the May 2023 primary. Well, guys, that does it again for another edition of Lexington Water Cooler News. Stay safe today. Those winds, tornadoes. All right, my name is Rock Daniels. I am the Bluegrass Realtor. Join me again tomorrow for all your latest news, weather, sports. Have a great day, guys. I look forward to